There is nothing better that I like than talking about leadership. Hey, glad to see you once again. My name is Paul Lawrence Van, and I head up Leadership as Influence, and has played a vital role in my life, and I know in yours as well. Hope that you're having a great day and an even better week. And really, it's all about getting excitement and joy out of life. Happiness is a better term. And in that process, leadership plays a role in everything. And so, what I'm going to talk about today are going to be the traits of a good leader. And traits are important. It's not something that you will get overnight if you're just getting started. And even if you've been around in the mid career or senior career, there's always still something to learn. And so, I want you to really understand what I'm talking about today and would love to connect with you, would love for you to subscribe as well because this particular YouTube channel is really gaining a lot of momentum, and I want you to be a part of it. And so, for those of you who have not visited my YouTube channel before or know something about me, I'll just share just a brief background just to give you some information on me and what my mission is. Again, that name is Paul Lawrence Van, and I retired from the Air Force 20 years ago this July. And I went through every leadership school the Air Force had to offer. I've led people, I've managed things and resources over the course of that time. But I also worked for a mobile oil company. I worked for them for a couple of years when I had a break in military service. So I have both the military officer experience and I also have the corporate experience. And I've worked in many, many blue collar jobs before. I worked in a yarn factory for a couple of weeks. I also worked at UPS for 4 years prior to going into the Air Force after I graduated from college. And so just want to give you a little bit of background and my passion for leadership. And I want you to catch that bug as well in terms of really wanting to appreciate leadership and what it can do for you and what you can do with it. So let's talk about some traits of a good leader. Let's start out by a good leader will define their vision and mission. And they'll do it so clearly. And it's so important because without a clear vision and our mission, you really don't know what direction to go in. So when you find a leader, one that's been in place for a while or one that's newly hired, you always want to know what their vision is because the direction they're going in, they want to take you with them because of the influence that they have over you as a part of that three-legged stool. And of course, that three-legged stool consists of the leader with the title, whether it's president, CEO, plant manager, whatever it happens to be, and also the people who supervise in support of that leader, and then of course the employees. When you really get down to it, all employees are important. But it's the people who gets the work done, the employees, who are the most critical because there are typically more of them, more employees who are not in that supervisory or management role and are in that leadership position by title. And if anyone knows me, you know that you don't have to have the title of leader to be a leader because we're all leaders because we all have a life to live. And so that's one of the most important things that I'm going to pass on to you. So let's get into this. And so let's look at the vision. And the vision is all about taking a good company as an example and making it a great company. And the way you do that really comes down that lane called hiring good employees, hiring top talent, getting the best and the brightest. That's really what the direction the company wants to go in. They want to go from good to great, from average to good, good to great. And by doing that, when you set the bar high like that, if everything goes according to plan and the leadership and the leaders develop other leaders along the way, the managers, the employees, for example, they will typically exceed the goal, exceed the vision, and go far greater than if they just decided to go on that route or that leadership journey of mediocrity. And no one wants that. And so when we look at taking a look at that vision and the mission for an organization, it's very critical that you as a leader, even in your position as an employee, is very vital. And I just want to remind everyone that if you're even newly hired, that's even better. And you know why it's even better? Because you can learn what the company's vision and mission is, and in your position, you can make it better over time. And no one is an overnight success, as some people say. Heard actors say, I was an overnight success. It took me just 15 years to get there. Now, when it comes to leadership, it won't take that long because you've already had some leadership experience. And part of that has been a student in school, or if you're working in your place of worship, if you had a volunteer, like I did. I used to help on a helps committee. So anytime there were activities such as the pastor's birthday or something like that, I would assist with that. And so we get all types of volunteer opportunities for leadership too, but we don't recognize it as such, but it actually is. And if you're playing team sports, then you're also getting leadership experience. And there's a vision and there's a mission for the team, whatever it happens to be. It could be football, tennis, golf. And these different sports are also very leadership oriented. And then when you go to a school or college, you also are getting leadership experience because you're learning time management. So some of those types of called time management and intense study, rigorous study, and research. So all of these things go into developing and building one as a leader with good qualities. The next one is having a strategic and innovative thinker. There's nothing better than working with a leader who just is focused on just being the best. There is nothing like it. And I love those type of bosses because it gives you the opportunity for innovation. It gives you the opportunity for creativity. And when you have those working together, when you're on a team, for example, on a special project, and let's say that special project is going out and finding better ways to market the company for other companies. And so you have the social media wheel spinning, you have your chat GPT, your AI, you have all sorts of tools at their disposal that can help get them strategically across the top. In other words, not only being the best in the city or the state, but in the country, and in some cases around the world. And when you start looking at it very strategically, you want to be, in the end, a part of that team and that organization or company that is considered the top. You've heard of the organization, the top 100 companies to work for in the United States or other countries. Well, you want to be on one of those type of teams and one of those type of companies and businesses because there's more recognition that you're higher in the industry. Investors can be happy because they're seeing a return on their investment, the ROI. And so there are many, many ways that a strategic thinker can come in, set the table, if you will, and position the organization and the teams that make up the organization to excel at a higher level. And I always talk about when it comes to leadership, it's all about enhancing and increasing the business performance. That's what it's all about. No matter what industry it is, you want to have the business performing, operating at peak performance, because it means that everything that vision and that mission that was established when the new leader came on, or he's following up from his predecessor or her predecessor, that you can take it to the next level. And so that's really what strategic and innovative thinker is all about. And then you want to be able to serve others than themselves, is what a leader with good quality traits have. And the reason why is because a leader can only get but so much out of themselves. In other words, some of you have heard this quote, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to get a new room, get a new organization. But if you're in a leadership position, with the title in this particular case, you want very bright, intelligent, articulate people in the room with you because they also put together a lot of in-depth knowledge, from the entire work experience, from academic experience. And when you bring these people together, they do some great things, but it's all centered on leadership. Very few organizations or company operate without some type of leadership. And so if you were to look at the organizational chart as an example of a company or of the military, you would see a lot of people on that list. And you are on that list in some form or fashion, depending on how long you've been there. And so it's up to and behooves a leader to really develop you and to make you the best that you can be, because the better you become, the easier his job becomes, and the better the results will be. And it all goes hand in hand. One does not function without the other. And so when we look at serving others, you want to make sure that you receive your training, that you have continuous study, and that you volunteer for different projects so that you can gain more experience. And then you may consider going through a leadership development workshop. And so that really helps as well. But if you want to be a valuable asset, you're going to have to develop yourself. It's not something that you're going to wish for. It's something that you're going to have to work for. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And I know from experience that I've had, and again, I started my working career at the age of 10, even though I was an unpaid intern. It's what my dad did to me for our store, community grocery store. My dad was a factory worker, as was my mother, and they started a side hustle at the time. But at the time that started, it was not called a side hustle. And so they had a community grocery store. And at the age of 10, after school, I would actually open the store up, talk to vendors, bringing in the bread, the milk, the eggs, you name it, everything. I like the day when the ice cream truck showed up, though. And so I started my leadership at a very young age. And even though at the time I did not know it, I was actually developing entrepreneurship skills as well. And my peers were not doing what I was doing, they were playing sports. And so after 5 years, I went to my dad and said, "Hey, Dad, I like to play sports." And he didn't support that. But that's okay. I learned from that experience too. So I went on and stayed at my grandmother's house, his mother, and she said, "Paul, I know you want to play football. Get out there and play." And I went and played, and I caught up with my peers. And in the senior year of high school, I was a starting defensive end, and I just gleaned so much leadership, the team building. And that's really what I want. I don't want it to be a part of a team, something great. And since we only had one high school in our county, and in the little town I grew up in North Carolina, it was just perfect because as a part of leadership, we were representing the community. Whenever we traveled to our opponent's city, then we would represent our city. And it was a lot of pride and a lot of honor to be able to do so. And I learned from that. I learned followership from our coaches and assistant coaches. I learned from my peers, and the peers learned from me in terms of teamwork and team building and camaraderie. And so it was just a tremendous leadership experience that ultimately led to me going to college and me working for UPS for 4 years. And then, ironically enough, I decided to attend a 6-week Air Force ROTC encampment at Dover, Delaware, and at the Air Force Base there, with no idea whether I would join the ROTC program when I returned back to school. Well, I went to that program. I learned how to march. I learned Air Force history. I had survival training. I had never flown on an airplane before, so I had my very first airplane ride on a C-5, which at that time is the length of a football field. So after, say, 19 years, I had my very first flight. And after that, I was hooked. And so a couple of weeks after that, we were flown to Columbus, Mississippi, and we were given what's called flight orientation. Now, continue to follow me because this is still leadership. And I put on the helmet, the oxygen mask, just like the pilot did, and in a two-seater. And we took off 10,000 feet, and the instructor pilot flew the plane for a while. Then he gave me what's called a stick. So I was flying the plane myself. And then he started doing wheelbarrows, which meant the aircraft jet rolled over. And I'm telling you, after that hook, line, and sinker, I'm in the ROTC program for 2 years, so more leadership. And ultimately, 2 years later, I graduated from college and received a bachelor's degree in business and accounting. And then I went on and I was commissioned a second lieutenant in the Air Force, and I served over 20 years. But I wanted to share that story with you because when you get down to it, a great leader serves others before themselves. And that's what happened to me. I had all kinds of people all along the line, whether it was professors, whether people at the ROTC detachment I was at there at North Carolina State University, or other people, but they all pushed me and they wanted me to do my best. And I had no idea how things would go, but I'm so thankful that they went the way they did. Now, here's the next good trait of a leader is to stay positive and humble. Now, when it comes to this, I'm your guy. I'm a very positive person and I like to be. And, I try to stay away from what's called the negative committees. And I like to be as humble as I can. And in doing so, it means that I'm the guy who's in the grocery store and there's a senior citizen there, and I'm going to help them push their basket and put their groceries in the car. I'm going to open the door for a lady. I'm going to open the door for an elderly person. I was working at as a volunteer at my children's school for 2 years, and I was the PTA president. And I got a chance to not only show my children that I was very passionate about them getting a good quality education, but all the other students as well, in addition to their parents. And so by doing this, I'm displaying this for my children and hope that they will learn it for the other students. And it was the very first time this new school had a PTA. And so it humbled me because I had the opportunity to work with the school board and attend their meetings, meet the parents. We invited the Tuskegee Airmen to come in to speak. We had fundraisers. We raised 25,000 the first year, 25,000 the second year. So we had a very robust program. And it all started with me donating $100. And I had a cookout with a fellow veteran, and we cooked lunch for the entire school, the principal, the teachers, and all the students. And after that, everyone joined the PTA. And it was a wonderful experience as well. So we want a good leader has good traits. They stay positive and humble. The next is to work towards fulfilling their purpose. That's what a great leader does. He's going to help his staff, his managers, and his employees. In the process, he's helping himself or herself. And primarily because if you do what you say you do, have that clear vision and mission, everything else is going to follow that. And so it's very important that the leader also takes care of himself, whether it means he goes in for more training at the executive level, him or her at the executive level, or if they are going out with team building, setting up team building for everyone, and also meeting with the higher ups in terms of his boss. Because even though a person may lead a plant, as an example, when I work with Mobile Oil, or mobile chemical company, he has a boss too, a regional director, and then of course it goes all the way up to the CEO. And so, in so doing, you have to take care of fulfilling your purpose. And a person who's taken on a leadership role has a huge purpose because oftentimes, depending on the industry they're in, there's a lot of money on the line. I know with Mobile Oil Company there is. I know with the Air Force there was a multi-billion-dollar operation. And so when we look at that, you want to fulfill your purpose, and you have to look at, succession and who will take the baton or who will reach out and be the next person in line. And in that process, you want to leave a good track record. And I always like to say, I want to leave a track record so strong that it's going to take a while for anyone to be able to overcome it. And so when I work, people ask me, well, how did you deal with all of that military discipline and whatnot? I said, look, this is what happened. My supervisors, they came and they talked to look at what I was doing work-wise, and they were like, huh, you're outworking everybody. We like that because I was making their job easier. And a lot of it, I just loved what I did. I was very passionate about it. And I worked as long as it took. I did not look at the clock. I gave my all and I volunteered for a lot of different events as well. You know, monthly events, the Asian American Pacific Month, Black History Month. I would go to the different functional, like AFCEA. And so that's the Armed Forces Engineering Association, all mine, and then the financial people in the field I was in. I would attend all of those events. So I just made it my business to always give more. And the challenge was not giving more for other people. It was for my organization, but I wanted to test myself to see how good I could be. And to me, for everybody, the challenge is every day, can you be better tomorrow than you were today? And the day after that, can you be better than you're going to be tomorrow? And to me, that's really what my mantra was and why I do what I do now. Let's get back to the different good qualities of a good leader. And then they have a high level of emotional intelligence. In other words, they want to walk in your shoes. They are very sensitive. They're very compassionate. And they also want to break down. I did a video before where I talked about when you work with Generation Z, they want to know what is your level of commitment. They want to know that you're humble. They want to know that are you support things in the community, like as an example, or do you support climate change? I mean, you have to have some emotional intelligence about you that's going to move you forward. And I happened to attend a total quality management course that was put on by the Dr. Deming. And it was in Philadelphia. And he was one of the forerunners of total quality management, which is something the Air Force was putting together in the early 90s. And so I became a part of that. And so meeting someone like him is really one of those once in a lifetime type of meetings, and being in his presence and seeing the excellence of what he did. And what total quality management was about is processes. So he, in the United States, it wasn't accepted. So he went to Japan and he showed them how to set up things such as the Toyota, the car companies, just as an example, and how they became more efficient. Their production lines were a lot faster than in the United States. They were more efficient and they kept the costs down, but everybody worked as a team. And so it was all about that total quality management. And so that's really also something when we look at emotional intelligence, it's just trying to get the most out of everybody and getting the most out of ourselves, you know, pushing ourselves to go that extra mile, if you will. And so you want to have a high level of emotional intelligence where there's sensitivities to the employees, especially after coming off this pandemic for the last 2.5 years, and how that changed the workforce and the workplace. And so by understanding that people need a break sometimes, they need to take some time off, or they need a retreat, or they could go with a soft skills retreat somewhere for team building. And so these things are something for a leader with good qualities would have. And last, they want to inspire and motivate people around them. Now, I have walked down a hall in the Pentagon with people that I've worked with, and one fellow in particular who was a colonel, one step away from general, he said to me, "Oh, Van, there's no way that you're happy every day. Every time I see you, you're smiling. You're just faking that, aren't you?" I said, "Sir, I don't fake anything. Like Papa say, I am what I am." And so I just let people know that I'm a very positive person and I motivate people around me. If you go on social media, you're going to see all kinds of motivational and inspirational things out there on social media. And people come back every day and they follow me because it's just a part of me, who I am. I'm choosing to live a positive life. And as a leader, for you, for example, you want to exemplify the same thing because people model what you do. And I was in a leadership position at the time that this colonel, who I admired so much, And I just told him, I said, you can be happy. I said, happiness is a choice. And he said, I just don't believe it. But every day he would see me, I'm smiling, I'm happy, I'm talking to people, I'm engaging, because that's just who I am. I came from a family, I'm one of 10 children, 5 sisters and four brothers. So I've been doing this for a long time. In other words, my entire life. So this is what I want to share with you today. Again, the traits of a good leader, and I'll go over them real quick to define their vision and their mission clearly. It's a strategic, innovational thinker, serves others before themselves, stay positive and humble, works toward fulfilling a purpose, a high level of emotional intelligence, and inspires and motivates people around them. So these leadership qualities are very effective for leaders, and something that we should all strive for as best we can. Now, if the question is asked, are there more? Absolutely, there are more, but I try not to overwhelm people with things. I'd rather share a bit and then share some stories to go along with it, some of my experience. And I'll also be sharing other people's experience as well. And but on this particular episode of Leadership is Influence, I simply want to share some traits of a good leader, and that you can add them to your toolkit, and you can start exercising some of these and incorporating some of these into your leadership position an employee, as a manager, or as a leader with the title. So I have provided my link here. If you want to learn more about me, just go to https://link, linktr.ee/Paul Lawrence Van. And there you'll be able to see the speeches that leadership speeches that I deliver, motivational speeches I deliver. You'll be able to see my leadership development workshops that I provide. You'll see the books that I've written, and also some courses that I have for people that talks directly to leadership and leadership as influence. And right now, I'm actually working on a book. I'm almost complete with a book that's coming out here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So you'll be hearing more about that, and I'll be talking about the book a little bit more. But thank you so much for your time. As I always state, my time is up, and I thank you for yours. I look forward to seeing you on the very next video of Leadership as Influence. Again, the name is Paul Lawrence Van. Have a great day and continued excellence in all that you do. See you on the very next video.